Hello and welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Juliet.
I'm Tim.
Tim, what are we doing here today?
We got another challenge review. Oh. Did you think we were recording something else? This is our recap podcast on the works of James Joyce. No.
Urbane to comfort them, the Quaker librarian purred. And we have... Okay, go on.
Every month we give you all a challenge to design cards for. It's the same challenge for everybody, so we get to kind of compare them against each other. The March challenge was You Are What You Eat. Design a card with Devour, Emerge, or Exploit. These are three mechanics that are all, a little bit about eating. Devour is like a mechanic where you can sacrifice some creatures to make the creature that devoured them bigger. Emerge, you sort of sacrifice a host to pop out like a bigger creature out of it. And then Exploit, hey, when I enter, I get to destroy this other creature that I control to get some spell effect usually. And we'll probably read the full reminder text for those when we get to that. One of the bonus points is You Are What You. And this is you want multiple of this card in draft. So either because it names, cards and says like, hey, for each copy of this, or it just happens to work well if you play multiple of them in the same deck, something like that. And then the second bonus point is the word becomes appears somewhere on the card. Anything you're looking out for with this challenge? Any mechanic or anything else you're hoping to see?
So I would be interested in seeing Merge in particular. And I'd be curious about, like the card design in my head that I would love to see. I'm not expecting that we'll see it, but would be some sort of like artifact, like a non-creature with Emerge, but that animates artifacts somehow so that you can then like sacrifice future ones or something that like, hey, I have 4 of these. I can go emerge like in sequence because it is itself a good sacrifice target. Like the first one you discount by 3 and the next 3 you discount by 6 or whatever because you're you can kind of spilling these out.
Emerge, typically you would have like some chumpy creature and then a big eldrazi would pop out of it, but you don't usually emerge out of that eldrazi into another one, but maybe we'll see that.
Right.
The first submitter this week was Ignited Soul, and they sent us Draconic Besieger. This is 1 red-green, 3 mana for a 2/2. It's a creature, lizard shaman at rare. It has Devour 1. As this enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature enters the battlefield with that many +1/+1 counters on it. And then whenever you attack until end of turn, attacking creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them become dragons, get +1/+0, and gain flying. Draconic Besieger, it's not a dragon naturally, but if it devoured something, it can become a dragon when it attacks.
So it either is just a 2/2 for 1 red and a green if you don't have anything to sacrifice. But if you have at least one thing to sacrifice, this becomes a 3/3 that when it attacks becomes a 4/3 flyer.
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty good deal. 4/3 flyer for 3. I had to eat up like a little sapperling or something. That's kind of nice on its own. And then it does this to every creature with +1/+1 counters on it. So maybe I don't have creatures I want to sacrifice, but I do have creatures with counters on them. I can just play the Besieger as like a lord almost, where, like I've got 2 other creatures that are ready to attack because this doesn't have to attack. You just have to attack.
Right.
2 other creatures with counters on them. They can be ready almost like haste style, where I get like some extra power, some extra flying, stuff like that.
Yeah. And if you do have a few of these that you can get, they do buff each other as long as they've got the counters. So
yeah, that's true.
Let's say Draconic Besieger comes out just flat normal and I get a sapperling token or something. I have a second Besieger comes out, it sacrifices the token. The one that is attacking gets both of the triggers, so it becomes a 5/3 flyer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a little bit exalted-y there. Or I have a bunch of creatures all buffing the creatures that meet some condition. Yeah, that seems pretty good. Yeah, this is a fun card because like the baseline stats are like a little bit of a warning sign, like a rare 3 mana 2/2. Like you're like, uh-oh, is this going to be good enough? But you have this devour option if you want to take it. And if you don't want to devour, you probably have other creatures in your deck that really benefit from this. Gaining flying, it's quite nice.
It's neat that it manages to do, you really want to devour 1, but you don't necessarily need to be devouring 3 or 4 in order for this to be like impactful, which it felt like in original Jund. A lot of the times, like, listen, if you are devouring 1 or 0, you are like not reaching card parity.
Yeah.
If you are going to be doing this, you might as well be trying to devour at least 2 creatures minimum in order to get your stats kind of in line to be worth it.
Cool.
Our next submission is from Gabe Lincoln. It's Brooding Dreadmaw. It's a 6/6 for 4 green and a green creature dinosaur at rare with Devour 1, and creatures devoured by this creature perpetually become Colossal Dreadmaw. Remove a +1/+1 counter from this creature. You may cast a Colossal Dreadmaw from your graveyard. Activate only as a sorcery.
Oh, wow, this is really clever. We got some perpetually tech, which is like the arena thing. Perpetually is sort of like setting a status about a creature, but it survives zone changes. So if something's perpetually a Colossal Dreadmaw and then it dies, it'll be Colossal Dreadmaw in the graveyard. If it gets shuffled or put in your hand, it'll stay Colossal Dreadmaw, and so on and so forth. And so the effect of this card is like, hey, you can eat a creature or 2 creatures or 3 creatures. They all die. But then you can start removing the counters from this Brooding Dreadmaw to then basically, cast or give birth to a bunch of baby Dreadmaws. That's pretty cool. I have to eat a bunch of stuff in order to lay a bunch of eggs. That kind of makes sense.
It's kind of what you eat becomes what you are.
You were eaten, therefore you became.
Yeah. As Hamlet would say, not where he eats, but where he is eaten.
Oh.
Which refers to a dead body.
Oh.
But, that's also what the thing's being devoured, and, we have eggs, and this makes sense because we know what Colossal Dreadmaw is.
Yeah.
I think this also makes sense from if this was like more of a xenomorph sort of thing. If you had like a xenomorph, meaning like the aliens from the Alien movie in franchise and stuff, more like face hugger parasite things that then kind of grow into bigger stuff, I think could also make a lot of sense for this mechanical sort of setup.
Yeah, I think like naming a different card also works a little better on Arena than it does in physical cards. Because typically you just mouse over this Brooding Dreadmaw and it could just show you side by side the Colossal Dreadmaw that is going to matter.
Right.
There's a lot of Dreadmaw jokes over there. I feel like I've read a lot of them. And this one, I don't know, it hit. I really liked it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, next up from Auxiliary Otter, we've got Way of the Poacher. This is 1 and a green for an enchantment class at uncommon. And because the class is going to be a lot of pieces to read, so we'll go one at a time. First of all, this enchantment has exploit. When this class enters, you may sacrifice a creature. Now, exploit itself doesn't give you anything, so we're going to see something that cares about exploit. Whenever a permanent you control exploits a non-token creature, draw 2 cards. The first level up for Way the Poacher is 3 and a green, and then when this class becomes level 2, Manifest Dread twice. Manifest Dread is that new mechanic where you look at the top 2 cards, put one face down into play as a 2/2 creature and the other one in your graveyard from Duskmourn. And then 1 and a green to go to level 3. Whenever you cast a creature spell, it gains exploit.
So, if you have this fully leveled up, you've got some manifested 2/2s that could be sacrificed. And then I cast a real creature. Then my real creature can exploit itself to draw 2 cards, or one of my manifested guys to draw 2 cards, because despite being kind of disposable, interchangeable creatures, they aren't tokens because they're cards. They're just face down cards.
That is funny. Yeah. The first clause here, you can exploit when it comes in, but its first clause is when a permanent you control exploits a non-token creature, draw 2. So, in the beginning, I get to basically like use this as a way to draw 2 by sacking a creature. And then way later on, 6 mana later, I give that to all my future creatures as well. So this is mostly there to draw a bunch of cards. And then along the way, I get a couple 2/2s.
Yeah.
And then I guess if you got like a theme deck, you got exploit, and a bunch of other cards that you have. The rate on exploit cards is typically pretty solid because you have to sacrifice a creature in order to get the bonus. So maybe this Way of the Poacher is just kind of okay, standalone, but in an exploit deck, it goes way over the top.
Right. The other thing to think about also is the way most, if not all, exploit creatures are worded is they will say when Gurmag Drowner exploits a creature. So, Gurmag Drowner can enter and have its exploitability resolve. You also can get the poacher thing. So you have 2 exploit triggers. So if you have 2 things to sacrifice, you can get that spell effect twice. Whether that is you're looking at the top 4 of your library, or creatures your opponents control get, an extra -1/-1, or you're draining life, or you're what's the Silmgar Butcher. So your target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn if this exploited a creature. So you can have this enter, and it can sacrifice itself and something else to give you 2 of those -3/-3s to hand out.
Oh, because the creature, wow, that's crazy. The creature is getting exploit and it'll have 2 instances of exploit. Like that when you first said that, I'm like, well, of course, but the ramifications of that didn't totally make sense to me. I guess I better have a lot of creatures to eat. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a cool card. I think this technology is used well. It's really functional. That it's like mostly here to just draw a gajillion cards. Doesn't fully thrill me. I don't know.
How do you feel about paying 1 and a green for a village rights, even if you're not upgrading this class?
Yeah. I mean, that is good. It's, village rights or whatever would be instant. This is not, but this has so much more upside. Maybe it's also just that like that village ricey thing doesn't totally feel green to me. There have been a couple like historical cards where green is sacrifice creatures to draw cards, but those feel more like grandfathered cards to me than what green really is doing.
Yeah. On a recent one, we talked a lot about like Momentous Fall and Mercy Killing.
Yeah.
That feels different than exploit a little guy, draw 2 cards, when instead it's like you're drawing cards equal to the creature's power or things like that.
Yeah, Greater Good is another old one.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's that because this card is so close to a black card. Maybe that's what's throwing me off. I mean, this is a cool card, very functional. You'd be happy playing. So all that is like absolutely locked in.
I don't see anything on this card that I wouldn't consider a potentially black or mono black.
You know what? That's fair too. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
It's possible that if this was just a green black card on its top cost, I would feel great about all of the components. Or maybe the level 2 is green and level 3 is black, or this could be one of those like Sultai 2 Brid sort of things, or
yeah, great card. Thanks for sending it in.
Yeah. Our next submission is from Adam. Wow.
Yeah.
It's Null Corrupt Oligarch. It's a 2/2 for 1 white and a black, a legendary creature human advisor at Mythic with exploit, and other humans and demons you control have exploit. Whenever a creature you control exploits a creature, create a treasure token and put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature. When this has 10 or more power, it becomes a demon in addition to its other types and gains flying, trample, and lifelink. So you just need to exploit 4 creatures to bring this from a 2/2 to a 10/10 flying, trample, lifelink. You get some treasure tokens along the way.
By itself, it can't do that because this has exploit, so it can eat 1 person on the way in. And it's actually exploiting in a mode that's almost like devour, because you enter, you eat a creature, and you get bigger. You also get a little bit of treasure. So in order to really meet the quest and become a demon, you need future humans or future demons to also help Null do corrupt stuff.
Mhm. And those humans or demons can be sacrificing other things, or they could be sacrificing themselves to their own
Oh,
exploit
yeah,
things
that's
to give
true.
Null the buff.
Yeah. And that feels like maybe the most possible way to do it, you know?
Mhm.
Having Null and a bunch of chumps and a bunch of demons or whatever might be a little too many creatures, but if it's more just like each of your future creatures are laying their lives down to power up Null. Even one hit of a flying flying trample lifelinker with 10 power is probably enough. So you don't necessarily need it to survive a couple turns.
Yeah. If you can get a like human token generator, like or hey, I'm going to play one and a white, I'm going to create 2 human tokens. Well, each of them can sacrifice themselves because exploit is like an ETB rather than a cast.
Hmm.
So the tokens here could sacrifice themselves and then bump you up. You're getting a treasure for each of those human creature, like human little ones you're sacrificing and getting the buffs here. So
Hmm.
I could see a world where you play Null on turn 3 and on turn 4 attack in with a 10/10 flying trample lifelinker.
Because of the treasure.
Yeah.
Huh.
Since you're getting a treasure back for each of the 1/1s, you could
Yeah.
easily cast make 2 humans into make 2 humans and
Hmm.
be doing pretty well.
Yeah, that does seem possible. There's sort of almost like a combo cheat out thing. Huh.
Mhm.
Do you like the kind of white black corrupt treasure generation? How do you feel about treasures in that pair?
Treasure in white black is always going to be one of those weird things where a lot of our white black flavor identity, like the Orjav Church of
Yeah.
Deals or things like that, it's like, oh, of course we should be exploiting things and getting the money. Oh, we should be extorting things and getting the money. We should, I don't know. To me, at the end of the day, I like red and green as the treasure colors,
Hmm.
with black as like you're losing something and getting treasure back.
Hmm.
Treasure in white should be a I dealt with your we're buying your silence sort of thing.
Hmm.
I'm not a big white creation of treasure, and I'm especially not a big blue creation of treasure person.
Sure, yeah.
The treasure also makes this have that kind of cheat out mode. Whether that's a problem or not, I mean, this still does die to a single like
Yeah.
targeted removal spell sort of thing. And you do have to have all of the pieces together.
Hmm.
But I mean, the idea of getting this out on an early turn, I think, is pretty compelling. I mean, anytime you have whenever this thing happens, create a treasure token.
Yeah.
You gotta you gotta just watch out
Gotta
whether or not
respect
that's
it.
gonna
Yeah.
spin out into something pretty impressive or wild.
Yeah, as a commander, I guess this is sort of Voltron-y. If I get some
Hmm.
equipment or something else to get Null's power over 10, I don't have to throw quite as many, sacrifices into the Thresher. Having lifelink in commander is typically like a good comeback mechanic, so it's a way of staying in the game for a long time while you do other stuff. This white black deck,
Hmm.
kind of likes sacrificing and kind of wants humans, so that's like a decent niche. I don't know, like we've seen vampires and demons in black white, other kind of flavor themes, but I don't know if we've had a black white commander that cares about humans. So that's nice to see
Hmm.
too.
And hypothetically, you could be, if you're really looking at humans and demons in particular, obviously you could use any of the black exploit cards. There's looks like Colonel Autumn from the Fallout
Oh,
thing as a
hell yeah.
white black. And then there's a few humans like Minister of Pain or Rakshasa Gravecaller as far as a demon to get some extra sort of, just get a little extra spice again on that double exploit if you want to be using that. But yeah,
White Glove Gourmand, a Fallout card that
wow,
creates human tokens in Orzhov. Wow.
it all comes together. So we haven't mentioned it much. Most of these challenges or most of these designs are hitting the becomes pretty well
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
are hitting the I would be happy to have multiple of this in draft, if in
Yeah.
part because it is
A good card.
a powerful rare. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is fair.
Yeah, I guess like bonus point wise on like a mythic or whatever, do you want multiple of these in draft? Like it's hard to even qualify for that. Not to say it's not an
Mhm.
awesome card, but yeah, the bonus points are there for just for fun, just for direction.
I
I don't think I've seen that much use of becomes. So seeing it
mhm.
used in a bunch of different cool places here has been nice. You're right.
I remember a sealed pool, I wanna say M11, a really
Yeah.
long time ago, that
Okay.
had, like, triple lightning bolt and
Oh.
whatever the Jace of that time was and the Chandra of that time was,
Oh, okay.
and I was just like, "Yeah, I'll take the
Yeah.
I'll happy to have all of these cards kind of pre-built. This is not
Hmm.
gonna be kinda silly with
Yeah,
it."
yeah. The
Uh,
triple lightning bolt, that's fun. Your opponent doesn't expect the third lightning bolt in sealed.
right?
All right, next up from Pat, we've got Cruel Intimidator, which is going to cost you 3 and a red, 4 mana for a 3/3 creature giant warrior. It has exploit. It has the text cowards can't block warriors. And then whenever a creature you control exploits a creature, target creature an opponent controls becomes a coward until end of turn.
Love it. I love it when a mechanic makes it very clear what is happening in the fiction of the game, where this is
Hmm.
like making an example of some little cowardly thing
Yeah.
to then intimidate your opponent and all of their creatures. Say, "Oh, you're just like this little guy.
Hmm.
Squish." And then you're
Yeah,
afraid of
yeah.
me now.
You failed me for the last time. Blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Cruel Intimidator, kind of a bold, weird Intimidator, Lorwyn sort of reference, which is the original
Mhm.
Cowards Can't Block Warriors.
Technically, I think Future Sight is the
Oh,
original
oh,
Bold
okay.
Weird Intimidator,
Hell
but
yeah.
it's such a I mean, that's within 12 months of each other.
I like it. It was a preprint.
Mhm.
Nice. In terms of getting this card to work, whenever a creature you control exploits a creature, target creature opponent controls becomes a coward until end of turn. So it's a little bit worse than target creature can't block this turn.
Mhm.
I have to exploit to get it. And then this guy can't ever use his own ability to get by anything. It has to
Right.
wait for like another intimidator to come through. Maybe that's the draft thing that we were talking about,
Yeah. Yeah.
which seems a little hard, but maybe it's possible.
Maybe if you have, like, Bitter Blossom, but for warriors, and then
Oh, okay.
most of your warriors have an exploit ability, or
Hmm.
most of your giants do, and you picked all of the giants that are warriors or some kind of thing like that. But yeah.
Okay.
How would you feel about this if it mostly only played with itself? You know, this if this was a common, let's say,
Hmm.
that you could get, but there weren't really other warriors or other exploit
Yeah.
cards.
Someone gives me like 7 copies of this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Mhm,
otherwise playing like a regular draft format where there's not a lot of warriors, not a lot of exploit in my deck. I would say that this card
mhm,
is probably not going to work in that circumstance because it's like a
mhm.
little small. I still need to exploit something. If it were just the ETB, when this enters, target creature is a coward until end of turn. Maybe that could work, but exploit is a cost, and I
Right.
don't know that I'm getting paid for paying that cost.
So instead, we'd want some Mog War Marshal, almost goblin that, like, oh, it creates a goblin token as it enters, and as
Hmm.
it dies, it creates another
Yeah.
goblin warrior for you. So you can kind of freely exploit it and get a leave the battlefield ability or a mud button torch runner, sort of little goblin warriors that you can
All right.
sacrifice to deal damage to face or things like that.
All righty. Yeah. Is this coward can't block warriors? Is this something we should see like every other year? Should we be building up towards warrior coward tribal?
Yeah, I don't think it's gone too far.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
on board
Okay.
with the cowards can't block warriors
All
sort
right.
of idea.
Very cool.
Our next card is from Xena. It's Tale of Consumption. Okay, this one's a little bit of a doozy. It's a Kindred Enchantment Eldrazi Saga
All
for
right.
3 generic mana, and then a hybrid between either 1 colorless or 1 blue.
Huh.
It is a 3/3, but it isn't a creature until an ability gives it creatureness.
Mm-hmm.
Then it has Devour 1 lore. So as this enters, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This permanent enters with that many lore counters on it. Trigger all chapter abilities with a number equal or lower to the number of lore counters. So a kind of way to like read ahead, but for devouring to get there. And the first 3 chapters are exile the top card of target library, +1 for each creature devoured by this permanent. And then Chapter 4 is Tale of Consumption becomes an Eldrazi creature with Annihilate 1, and it's no longer a saga.
Oh. I was concerned when you were reading that I'd be making a creature, it's got power and toughness built into the card. I'd be making a creature, but that creature would go away almost right away. But no,
Right.
it sort of stops being a saga and is only Eldrazi.
It does, I guess, half of the like processing Eldrazi sort of thing, where it is exiling the top card of target library. So that could be yours if you need cards in exile, like some of the Modern Horizons 3 Eldrazi stuff, or this could be exiling from your opponent's library, like some of the Oath of the Gatewatch style Eldrazi, or just to like get towards milling more.
Yeah. When I first heard like exile the top, blah, 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 I'm thinking like the red exile draws where like, hey, you could play it until the end of your next turn. This isn't that. This is just like milling, but it's extra gone.
Right.
And then it seems like it might like multiply in kind of a funny way. Like, let's say I just have a bunch of creatures laying around and I devour 3 times so that I trigger all, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, because I added like 3 extra lore counters. It says like exile the top card of the library +1 for each creature devoured by this permanent. So I sacrifice 3 things, so I get 4 cards, and I get that 3 times, so I get like a big chunk of their library. Whereas if I don't really devour anything, if I just play this for 4 mana, I exile 1 card, then 1 card, then 1 card. Yeah. So I guess you get a little more payoff if you actually care about exile.
Okay, here's a question. If you don't devour any, does this enter with 1 lore counter? Because it's a saga? Or I guess another way, if I devour 1 creature, does this enter with 2 counters on it or 1?
Oh, that is a decent question.
This enters with that many lore counters on.
I'm not sure. It kind of seems like if you don't devour, based on the reminder text, you don't get any counters if you don't devour it, which is a little odd for a saga. Normally a saga comes into play, it gets that 1 counter. But maybe this is saying, no, don't do that.
I think I'm going to read it as, even though that's not what the reminder text implies, that you do start at 1 and then tick up based on. So if you devoured 3 creatures, you would be having this come in on chapter 4.
Yeah. Do you think it's devour 1 - lore? Do you think I'm getting +1/+1 counters and lore counters, or just lore counters?
I think just lore counters. It definitely would be a very different card if we also get +1/+1 counters, because then devouring 3 creatures makes this a 4 mana 6/6 annihilator one that then also takes out the top 9 or 12 cards from the opponent's library.
Yeah. Devouring 3 creatures is a decent cost, so we're not
Right.
We're not totally cheating or anything.
But that is also very different than devouring 3 creatures and just getting a 3/3 out of it.
Yeah. I think I kind of like devour into lore counters, but it takes up a room on this card that you like the first 3 steps all have to be the same.
It seems like if it wasn't for this design challenge, this would be a novel like keyword specifically for sagas that is kind of more clear about what it's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is cool. Hey, Eldrazi are cool. Is this card playable? I'm pretty sure it is.
It makes me want a like really hungry book saga that enters and like devours the lore counters off of it's so parasitic to have a saga that cares about other sagas, but that eats all of the lore counters off of the other sagas and then becomes a creature with like with that treats its lore counters as +1/+1 counters or something like that. Because unlike planeswalkers, when you wipe all the counters off of a saga, you just get to start over from the beginning rather than destroying it.
Yeah. Maybe like an artifact that's eating lore counters off of sagas, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is cool.
And we get the becomes in. I don't know that I would want I guess if I have multiple of these, I could just be milling the opponent out, but the cost on this for the mill doesn't seem like something I would want to be building around by having 4 or 5 of these in my limited deck.
I guess devour with wanting multiples is kind of tough because you kind of ate all your good food the first time around. And if I want to play a second one, well, I probably already consumed all the stuff I was happy sacrificing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Next up, we've got from Kuyashi Plays, we've got Sarlacc, Star Wars reference here.
Wow.
1 black for a 03 creature worm alien at uncommon. It has Defender, Devour 1, and whenever a player sacrifices a creature, or whenever a creature dealt damage by this creature this turn dies, put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature. All right, so this grows by 2 for 2 different conditions, but the Sarlacc is a 3 mana, 03 Defender, Devour 1.
Right. So if you sacrifice one creature to the Sarlacc as it enters, then it becomes a 1/4, but then immediately also becomes a 3/6.
Oh.
I think. Yeah. Because you'll get the 1 counter from the Devour and the 2 counters from the whenever a player sacrifices a creature. So that this would become a 3 mana 3/6 as long as you can devour one thing.
Yeah, Defender. Yeah, okay.
It effectively has Devour 3, I guess. It just also can gain counters later on. So if you imagine this as a 1 black and black Defender Devour 3/03, it's like, well, there's board states where I would play that card. It's kind of this like narrow tall, or this conversion of a wide defense into a tall defense. But if I've then some way to like build up the Sarlacc and then throw it at my opponent somehow.
That's what I think we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ability to like hopefully cost efficiently grow this Sarlacc to be huge. And then it being huge, I'm going to use for some other purpose. Yeah, it seems like a game plan. It's got defenders, so it needs some other way to contribute to winning.
It's also neat that if you are playing this in like a commander sort of deck where you have a lot of other sacrifice synergies, this could give you any sacrifice synergies you want as it enters, or kind of ambiently as you're doing your like, hey, I'm sacrificing my young wolf to my Viscera Seer, or my, Geralf's Messenger, or different things, like any of the different like persist sacrifice red cap stuff. You could just be making this eventually kind of arbitrarily large, and then rite of consumption, I suppose, to try to hit your opponent.
Yeah. The Sarlacc is like this creature that lives in like a pit in the desert in Return of the Jedi, is that right?
Yes, Return of the Jedi, over on Tatooine.
Oh yeah, because it's when Luke Skywalker is cool. He's wearing all black. Yeah, so I guess it's like, hey, when we want to punish people, we throw them in the Sarlacc pit.
And we take the barge over to see it. The classic,
the cool floating barge.
Fire up the barge, another round of shots, turn down for hut, sort of.
Some YouTube video Juliet watched 11 years ago is still rattling around in there.
You are 100% right. The folks who taught me how to podcast.
Oh.
Different era, different day. But yeah, as honestly, if this showed up in a Star Wars Universes Beyond, I'd be like, pretty cool version of what the Sarlacc pit is.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would change would be like, could this somehow be a land that then like animates instead? I think Defender accomplishes the thing because similar to like, oh, you've got to figure a way to animate the land that you're putting all these counters on. It's easier to animate a Defender into attacking. Our next submission is from VT Basmat. It's Teratog for 2 generic, a red and a green. It's a 0/0 creature Atog. It has Devour Land 1.
Oh.
And Devoid. And whenever this creature enters, it becomes white if a land it devoured can produce a white mana. The same is true for blue, black, red, and green. And then tap, add X mana in any combination of this creature's colors, where X is this creature's power.
Wow.
So for Devour Land 1, we've seen Devour Artifact 1, I believe, as a thing.
Oh.
So as this creature enters, you may sacrifice any number of lands. It enters with that many +1/+1 counters on it. So you can't sacrifice creatures to it, but you can sacrifice lands.
When it said like Devour Lands, I'm like, uh-oh, what are we signing players up for? But it at least can tap for basically the amount of mana that you lost in the lands that you sacrificed.
Yeah, and maybe this is a redundancy for like a Bloom Tender sort of combo.
I need one creature that could tap for multiple mana so I can like repeatedly untap it, repeatedly generate a ton of mana.
And if you need like a coalition victory, if you need creatures of every color, this can be a way of getting there if you are sacrificing. The interesting thing though is if you sacrifice a let's say a Shimmering Grotto, right? Or sacrifice a City of Brass, something that can tap for all of the colors. You're only getting 1 power off of it, but you're getting all of the colors potentially. And so this could then tap for 1 of anything. The other thing is, what if you sacrifice 10 lands to this, but you're only getting black? They're all swamps or swamp-alikes. They're all Bajuka Bog sort of things. Then you can tap this to add 10 mana, you like whatever, or any other power buffs that you've got, anything that you can do to buff this power, then immediately equates to mana. And so it's interesting because it's easy to think about this is either a 2/2 that taps for 2 colors or a 5/5 that taps for 5 colors or whatever, but can be a 8/8 that taps for 1 color or a 1/1 that taps for any one of the 5 colors or a number of things in between.
Yeah, Devoid was funny to see on this because at first I was like, Devoid's not really the right flavor for this. But then when it gains a bunch of extra colors, we need to be Devoid so we can start building up colors. I don't know. That seemed like a cool use of Devoid to me.
Yeah.
The honest play on this feels a little, maybe a little bit tenuous. Like, could I put this in just my average limited deck and get something out of it? I'd be a little frightened to play this card. Like even sacking 2 lands, I'm not getting that big a creature, so I can't really attack and block with it. I get my mana back, but I didn't really get ahead. So if I want to play Teratog here, I got to find like a cool kind of commandery combo to do. Thanks for the card.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Chord Submission, Devourer of Monsters, 3 black-green for a 3/3, 5 mana 3/3. Creature Giant Horror. It has Devour Monster 4. It's called Devour Monsters, and it has Devour Monster 4. And actually, we haven't really seen Devour above 1, so it might be worth like mentioning here. Devour Monster 4 means every monster you eat, you get 4 counters off.
And monster has a meaning here, specified by the reminder text as well. It's not just a creature type. It is.
As this enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of monstrous permanents. This creature enters the battlefield with 4 times that many +1/+1 counters on it. So monster is not really going to be a creature type here, though I guess it could be. Instead, it's talking about monstrous, like from Theros, where creatures could, like, a Cyclops is walking around, and then you hit the monstrous ability, and it becomes like much bigger and gains a cool new ability.
Mm-hmm.
It also has an ability: black, green, discard this card. Create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token with 1 tap monstrosity 2. If this isn't monstrous, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It becomes monstrous. Interesting.
So you can turn your 1/1s into 3/3s. Let's say you have drafted 4 of this. You could black and a green discard the first one for a 1/1. It's like, that's a 1/1, but I can turn that 1/1 into a 3/3. I can do that again a few times. And then you can bring this in, and any of those 3/3s, you are then turning into 4 counters onto this. So you can sow and then reap if you have enough of this particular card in multiples.
Yeah. So the base deal, like, let's say, I'm not drawing many monstrous things. I just need to cycle this away. Mm-hmm. I get to pay 2 mana to make a 1/1, and then a 3rd mana to turn that into a 3/3, which, I'm probably doing okay there. And then if I do that once and I have a second Devour of Monsters, I can eat that first 3/3 to get 4/4 worth of power. Okay. I don't normally think of things that are monstrous if they are like my prime fodder for devouring. Maybe that's why I get 4 counters, but like if I have a monstrous creature, it's often like a 7/7 or something.
Yeah. I mean, the cheapest way to get a monstrous creature other than doing this little discard and cashing in, as far as I know, would be playing Polukranos for 4 and then just spending a single green mana and skipping out on the Polukranos being able to fight trigger that would normally happen with that monstrosity, or putting out a bunch of Fleece Mane Lions, because that's 2 mana with 5 mana for the monstrosity there.
Yeah.
However, I really do like these weird little soldiers. They feel very this is saying something about whatever this set or this format would
what
be.
This world is. Yeah.
That these little 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens with turn this into a monstrosity. Like, this feels akin to the 3/2 eldrazi tokens from Eldritch Moon, or the incubate as the sort of thing. I like this as there's something kind of eldritch horror about it in a fun way.
Yeah. Or like these soldiers are, I guess this is a little dark, but are like doing kind of war crimey stuff, right? They start as soldiers and then become monsters.
Oh, sure. I was thinking more like they're gazing long into the abyss and then discovering the abyss gazes back into them.
Yeah, I feel like there's got to be some room for this Devour of Monsters flavor. Like, why is it summoned by monsters? Why does it eat monsters? So there's some lore, there's some story potential in this card to tell you about a set, to tell you about a world. The card on its own is a standalone thing. It's not quite getting there, but it has a lot of hooks for things that could be really cool.
Here's a kind of twist I would make on this. If it wasn't trying to fulfill the design challenge like Devour part, which is make this a bigger on its own and more expensive card, and then make it kind of have affinity for monsters, affinity for monstrous permanents or similar sort of thing. Where if this is an 8 mana 8/8 with some generic keywords and everything, but each one of these little soldiers that I've gotten down and turn into a monster then is going to be discounting this so that I can get out this big kind of coup de grace finale creature.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's probably something to play with there. And I'm going to be thinking for a while about making tokens that can monstrous themselves.
Yeah, they can self-upgrade. Yeah, that is cool.
Our next submission is from Larsent. It's Feculent Fenspawn. It's a 4/3 for 1 black and a green. It's an uncommon creature, ooze horror. It has emerge from non-ooze creature, 3 black and a green. And when Feculent Fenspawn enters, if its emerge cost was paid, you may search your library and graveyard for any number of cards named Feculent Fenspawn, reveal them, and put them into your hand. then shuffle your library. And is this our first emerge card of the day?
It is, yeah.
And so emerge, just as a refresher, is you may cast the spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the emerge cost reduced by that creature's mana value. So if you had a 3-mana card out, you could reduce that emerge cost down to black and green by sacrificing that 3-mana creature. However, Succulent Fenspawn can't sacrifice to itself because of the emerge from non-ooze creature, so you'd have to remove the creature type of this if you wanted to just keep cycling them in and out of play.
Yeah, this is a nice combination of abilities. It's sort of a vanilla, 3-mana 4/3, which can be pretty fine. And then if you either have some disposable creatures or you have a lot of fen spawns in your deck, it can be worth it to emerge instead, to sack a creature to go draw 1 or 2 or 3 more of these. Drawing 3 4/3s, even if they're vanillas, is good. That's a thing that's worth doing.
And trading off a 4/3 and then emerging one into the battlefield, so you're drawing 2 from your library and 1 from your graveyard, feels like, oh, you're never getting out of this. The oozes are going to slowly start surrounding you, and you'll have to deal with my non-ooze creatures and my ooze creatures. Otherwise, I'm going to be able to keep emerging them back in. I am excited to see an emerge card. This is we said devour, emerge, or exploit. We've seen some really interesting versions of devour and exploit, and I don't want to take away from them.
Yeah,
I'm just excited to see emerge show up here in a card that I think is fun for how.
Yeah.
I don't know, because of that mind game to the opponent, because of that, like, do you want to try to remove this? Because I can just pull it out of my graveyard to my hand by using one of the other ones in my hand. My hand will always be full of Succulent Fenspawn.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get like mostly emerge cards because, before you announce the challenges or I'm talking to guests, hey, what card would you want to see? What do you want to design? Everyone said emerge. Emerge was the most loved one going into this, at least as far as I heard. But maybe people are trying to redeem the other mechanics. Maybe that's the idea here. People love doing that too.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of this. I'm glad it has the emerge from non-ooze, but at the same time, I'm still wishing for a like weird emerge, like, or you just like every turn I'm emerging these 2 cards from each other, and I'm like finding ways to cycle them back in and out of the battlefield.
All right, next up, this next card has a little bit of a visual to it, but I'll try my best to describe what's happening here. There was a discussion in the Discord, but we've got a card, Spawn of Blex, which is 1 and 2 hybrid black-green. So 3 mana, 2 of which has to be black or green, for a 3/3, 3 mana, 3/3. Legendary creature Pest at rare. Other non-token creatures you control have exploit. Whenever another creature you control exploits a creature, surveil 2. If the exploited creature was a pest, gain 2 life and draw a card. The main gag of this card is that it also has a bunch of lines drawn on it.
I think, in fact, the arrows are indicating the steps of designing the card. So we start with exploit as the idea. And then exploit draws an arrow to exploits that you have to have the first instance of having exploit, and then you need to have another trigger that watches for exploit. It also, the first exploit also points to pest, which then points to the pest show up in the rules text. If the exploited creature was a pest, gain 2 life and draw a card. It also points up to the black-green hybrid because of the pests that we saw in Witherbloom and Strixhaven. Pest also points up to the pest, and the mana cost of 1 black-green point to the name Spawn of Blex. I believe Blex was the legendary pest in Witherbloom. The 1 black-green also then points to 3/3 because of 3/3 for 3. Spawn of Blex then points to legendary because the name, we went from exploit to pest, pest to mana, pest and mana to Spawn of Blex. Then the name Spawn of Blex to legendary because, this is also a legendary creature. And then legendary itself then points over to rare, and then rare again points alongside the mana cost that a rare for 3 mana should be at least a 3/3. So that's the kind of to me that's the order of operations that's going on there.
Yeah. We want to start with exploit. Well, what do we want to exploit? Well, let's exploit a pest. We haven't done that. Yeah. All right. And then it kind of spins out from there. You're building out the card from that one word.
So this really wants you to play other creatures that then sacrifice Flex. And I guess if this is your commander, you're just like, I love paying the commander tax. I love repaying this in order to surveil 2, gain 2 life, and draw a card.
There are Blex fans out there. I've seen the Blex commander deck.
Uh-huh.
The backside of the original Blex card is also, if you're willing to pay a lot of life, like a 4-mana draw 5. So people love Blex just for gripping cards.
That's Search for Blex.
Such a flavorful card name. Just a bunch of students looking through the swamp for their pet that went missing. Yeah, I like the Spawn of Blex. The play value's there. I think this is a solid card that would do something. But then the gag of all the arrows is just a 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. I want either some recursion built into the card, or like when you sacrifice this to an exploit ability, it can come back. So like this is like the perfect like lab rat for all of your exploit triggers, or you are getting a card back, so maybe that's the thing. But like, even if this could exploit itself, if I'm playing 1 black green to surveil 2, gain 2 life, and draw a card, I guess with the like split card version of, or take a 3/3 if you don't want to do the exploit. I don't know. Maybe there's a world where the exploit stacking and everything is a big enough thing, and this is a body that can kind of flexibly work. But the thing in my heart wants like the spawn to keep respawning.
Oh, okay. Some discount or some other thing. Yeah. Okay.
It is also a shame that it is legendary, because if I have 4 of these, what I would like to be able to do is Spawn of Blex and then put out a second Spawn of Blex and then eat the first one. But I'm pretty sure I don't have time to do that from state-based effects for legendary permanents. Alas.
Yeah.
Our next submission is from Kieran. It's Greedy Prospector. For red and a green, it's a 2/2 creature human scout uncommon with exploit land. And whenever you sacrifice a land, create a treasure token.
Whoa. Huh.
So this lets you, of course, when this creature enters, you may sacrifice a land. So you could sacrifice a land and create a treasure token. You would also probably be hoping to play this alongside fetch lands, either the classic style, like a Misty Rainforest sort of thing, or even stuff like Evolving Wilds or Terramorphic Expanse, even like Panoramas. Like you're eventually going to be getting your mana back in your sacrificing. Maybe play this also with Lotus Field. That's the one. When it enters, you sacrifice 2 lands.
And also get a little bit of treasure along with it. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to put this in a regular deck? Probably not. Do I want to put this in a deck that's doing crazy things with playing lands out of graveyards and stuff? Yeah, this will be cool there.
You play this and your Scythe Tiger. The Zendikar, like 3/3 1-drop Shroud that sacrifices a land when it enters.
Yeah.
The Hellion Summons card, you can sacrifice lands to. Things like that kind of say, hey, we're going to be doing this red-green kind of mid-range thing where all of our creatures pay attention to sacrificing lands.
Yeah.
I want to say that Red Bay had a thing. I know it was a landfall, but I want to say alongside landfall, there was also a sacrificing land set up in one of their sets from what is now probably 2 years ago. I was like, from last year. I like how simple this is. And I mean, if you've got this in multiples, you're also really happy to sacrifice. Every land you sacrifice, you get 2 treasure. That's that I think it might be a bargain, especially.
Yeah. You're extra putting yourself in danger, but extra getting paid off.
And if you have any other, like, when you sacrifice a permanent sort of effects that can then look at the land sacrifice and the treasure sacrifice both,
Are
that's
there, like, besides like fetch lands, can you play enough evolving wilds and stuff that
Mhm.
that you can get paid
4
off?
evolving
Maybe.
wilds, 4
Yeah.
terramorphic expanse, 4 et
4
cetera,
of
et
that
cetera.
unblockable variant. Yeah.
Mhm.
Our second to last card here is from James Dalton Bell. It's a planeswalker. So buckle up.
Mm.
Armitage, Dunwich. 3 blue black, 5 mana for a 4 loyalty planeswalker. It has emerge for 2 blue black. So I could play this by sacking a creature and probably only paying 2 mana. It has a plus, mill 2 cards, then you may return a non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Whoa. For 0, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, create a 3/2 blue horror creature token named Failed Experiment with when this creature dies, draw a card and a mana cost of 2 and a blue. And then an ultimate -8. You get an emblem with creature cards in your hand and graveyard have emerge. Their emerge cost is equal to their mana cost.
Huh.
Funny to get the cost of a token specified, but I guess that's because you want to play like the all emerge deck.
Right. A note from James is the idea is that Failed Experiment would also be a card in whatever set this is in. So we're getting a creature token named this, but this would be a 2 and a blue for a 3/2 blue horror creature named Failed Experiment with like card text, when this creature dies, draw a card.
This decent suite of abilities here. Mill 2 and then get a permanent back out of your graveyard as a plus is a pretty good one. The 0 here, I get to sack a creature and then get this 3/2 that dies and draws a card. You know, if I'm playing this emerge deck, I probably have creatures that are worse than a 3/2, or at least equivalent to, and then get my cards back later when those things start to die.
Emerge on a planeswalker is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, either directly connected to or just named by, Dr. Henry Armitage is a character from H.P. Lovecraft's The Dunwich
Oh.
Horror.
Oh, okay. It's not just Eldritch Moon, it's Lovecraft Moon. But this flavor is cool. A failed experiment, is that a cool creature? Yeah, I think it is.
I like the 0 ability especially. And
Transmuting things, yeah.
turning a token that maybe doesn't have a mana cost into a token that does have a mana cost to then like incentivize
okay.
emerging, maybe.
I kind of want the failed experiment to be a plus. Power level
Sure.
wise, I'm not really sure, but I feel like I should go through a couple failed experiments and then I have my master stroke because I've been learning this whole time.
Yeah. I think that makes sense to me. Again, it's really difficult to know everything about a planeswalker without playing it. They're intentionally a very complicated thing. But I think I would agree. I'd be interested in maybe swapping the +1 and the 0 then.
The mill 2, that's fine, but then you may return a non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. On a plus, is it a little bit in a red flag, like repetitive gameplay thing where I'm going to keep getting back the same card every turn and keep like stonewalling my opponent? My opponent's like, I can't get through to the planeswalker because they're playing the same cool defender every turn. If that's on a 0, then like I can tread water, but I'm not getting ahead.
It is also, I don't know how I feel about the ultimate with the creature cards in your hand and graveyard have emerge. Should this be implying that creature cards, if a creature card in your graveyard has emerged, can you cast it for that?
I don't think naturally, because all the emerge cards already have emerge in your graveyard, but you can't cast them out of your graveyard. Maybe it's like trying to build some other synergy. Like if you're able to like bring back things that have emerge or whatever, It's trying to like allow other cards to work, that this card doesn't specifically help you with cards in the graveyard that have emerge, but it's just letting you do other things with those.
Yeah. And honestly, even just creature cards in your graveyard can emerge from the graveyard and their emerge cost is equal to their mana cost. Like that as a thing, there seems like you could make a really fun effect out of that.
Yeah.
You can make something spicy for an ultimate, maybe.
This is cool though. I
definitely very interesting.
The story of the failed experiment token is really potent.
Our last card here is from Plaid Weasel VT. It's Gluttonous Leech. It's a 3/2 for 3 and a black. That's 4 mana for 3/2. Creature Leech Horror, uncommon. It has Exploit. And when Gluttonous Leech exploits a creature, it becomes a copy of that creature, except it has base power and toughness 3/2, and is a leech in addition to its other types. It says, a meal shared is a form borrowed. Creepy stuff.
Yeah, this is kind of like a cool take, like a novel take on the black, like, hey, if I have a creature in my graveyard with flying, I have flying. If I have a creature in my graveyard with trample, I have trample. This is kind of like that, but in a new way. This is saying, hey, find little creatures that have a ton of great keywords and then make a 3/2 version of it.
Or stuff that has like a dies ability that you really want to get a kind of refresh on, or
a double dip on a dies trigger. Yeah, absolutely.
Something that really wants to see itself both in the graveyard and on the battlefield, maybe. This hitting the kind of, I don't know, like Yerk sort of flavor.
Yerk? I don't think I know what Yerk is.
Oh, I think it's YEERK from like the Animorphs franchise.
Oh, okay.
Or there's at least one character, if not multiple characters, in like Warhammer and Warhammer Fantasy that are like Nurgle little like leeches that, you put the leech inside of a big giant and then suddenly you've got a big giant who's doing all the weird plague bringing stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think this is like wild, gross in a way that's appealing to some players. And like this, I think, gets at you are what you eat in one of my favorite ways.
Yeah. That's true.
And it hits becomes pretty strong. I wouldn't need a bunch of this, but I could totally see having like a creature at common or a creature at rare that really plays well with Gluttonous Leech. And then, oh, hey, I picked up 3 leeches and this one rare. And so I can keep kind of exploiting them over and over again. Being
like a 4-mana 3/2 makes the like potential things to eat like kind of narrow, because eating something that has trample or eating something where I want it to, block or be blocked in combat, like those are kind of not on the table because it's only a 3/2. Like I need to find just the right creatures to turn into. And then if I don't have just the right creature in play, I'm kind of stuck because this creature is like pretty below rate.
I definitely believe in the ability to have cards in like the limited format for it, but it's not like it is a autoplay in most decks if you don't have like some form of interaction for it.
Yeah. I guess like if I eat a 1-mana flying lifelink, now I have a 3-power flying lifelink, which is good, and I'm pretty happy about that. But even that's like a fairly specific card to be aiming. Maybe in the format it all makes sense. So with the right home, this card could be amazing.
Maybe for 2 mana, you've got a 1/1 flying lifelink. When this dies, surveil 2 and draw a card.
Yeah.
And so you can Gluttonous Leech and get the draw card, get the 3-power. I don't know that that's still necessarily something that you're building your deck around, but it's conceivable. This as a like aura, more or less. This is a +2/+1 for someone.
Yeah, that's sort of what it is. It's a +2/+1 or something, or a retrigger of a death trigger.
Or maybe you have a when this is exploited by a leech, give a leech 6+1+1 counters or what
Yeah,
have you.
the environment could contribute to this card being a lot better, but if I plop this in Dustborn or whatever, it's going to be tricky to find good hosts.
Mhm. So we've gotten to see a lot of funny "you are what you eat" cards.
Yeah.
Any of them jump out to you as your favorite?
I think the first one that we saw, Draconic Besieger, that was the creature that could eat something and then turn creatures with counters on them into dragons and give flying. That gave me the mixture of devour stuff that I'm hoping for. Like, hey, I'm
Mhm.
a little wimpy if I don't devour. I might have a little utility. If I have something good to devour, then that's even better. I've got a whole team of dragons that are all devouring things, and now I'm really going crazy and having a great time. I think there were a bunch of cool ones though. I did not expect to see so much devour. I'm thankful to see so much devour.
Yeah. As far as devour ones go, I'm interested in Sarlacc for how kind of straightforward, but also how much it scales, and that you don't have to have all of the devouring on. It helps a little bit to have the devouring the turn it comes in, but you could be devouring things later and still be accruing some value from it.
Cool cards.
So the end of one design challenge means the beginning of the next one. Your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is Fool's April. Submit either a real card with name and any relevant creature types changed, or a custom card. Either way, you must include spoiler text. Typically, you use 2 bars to the left and right, either with the real card name hidden in the spoiler, or revealing that it is a custom card hidden in the spoiler. Our bonus points for this challenge are Fool's Gold, that this can be cast for only a single color of mana, and Fool's Rules, 3 lines of rules text.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. The idea here, you could take a real card that's implausible in some way, unprecedented, one that we might not think is a real card, and you can change the name and the types. If you're picking a lord, like a goblin king or whatever that says I'm a goblin, but I also give goblins +1/+1, and you want to change that to capybaras, and you can change that both in the type line and in the rules text. You can update those at the same time.
So see whether you can stump us with this this fun Fool's April challenge due April 25th.
I'm so excited for this one. I can't wait to get duped over and over.
So that's our podcast for this week. You can join our Discord with the link in the show notes. Thanks for coming on, Tim.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad to be a guest on this show finally. Yeah. Anything you want to tell people about?
I was on an episode of the Maniculum podcast that just released this past week, which was a game show called Sidrak and Bockus, the Gamen with the Changes Not, which is a medieval wisdom literature game show where I did my best to write medieval wisdom literature. You know, the sort of thing where it's 2 people talking, but I was like, why are there so many stars in the sky? Or what is there more of? Earth or water? Or what is the greenest thing that there is? And, you get all sorts of fun answers that often, but not always, go, well, in the Garden of Eden, things are this way, so now they're this way instead. But that you can check that out wherever podcasts are found at the Maniculum podcast.
Wow.
Maniculum is if you ever see that weird finger pointing at something in a medieval, in medieval manuscript, that's the Maniculum. Because man, manufacture, handmade.
Manual. Okay.
Has to do with your hands.
Maniculum. Alrighty. Is this normally a game show or is this
they do episode? So the Maniculum podcast covers a lot of medieval literature with the we're going to walk you through a story and here's how you could pull from that to do something fun for your D&D campaign. or stuff like that.
Oh.
But then occasionally they do these sort of have a bunch of guests on to do competitions against each other to try to outthink medieval literature, which is, I don't know, I find 14th century literature in particular to be a certain kind of compelling.
Very fun. I've never heard of this, but I'll check it out.
Tim, where can people find you on the internet?
Right on Discord. That's the best place to find me. Check out beaconofcreation.com. I haven't plugged that in a while. We've got show notes up on there. Sometimes when you go through and look at all the weird things you talked about in an episode, you realize the list of that's really funny. So if you want to chuckle at all the crazy things that we talk about, that's on there. All the images for the cards, I've started putting Scryfall links to all the cards that we mentioned. So if you're a little newer to Magic, you can kind of open up beaconofcreation.com along with listen to the episode or even do some homework ahead of time. Scan all those cards ahead of time so you know what we're going to talk about. Make it a little easier to listen to.
Yeah. And you can find me, of course, on the Discord, but also on Blue Sky and most social medias at Folly Persists. Thanks for listening, and always remember. So the principle of you are what you eat does apply to a certain extent to what you eat, but it also applies even more so to your media diet. So just, consider the things that you are consuming and how they culturally, your capital C culture, end up creating the thing that you are embodying into the world.